We'll move on to the objectives of entrepreneurial development programs. There are several objectives. We'll go through them one by one. So the first objective is to develop and strengthen the entrepreneurial quality and motivate them according to their strengths and weaknesses. So each business and each business variant has its own needs and has its own required skill and knowledge. But a person is equipped with a person might be equipped with certain qualities that might or might not match might or might not match the entrepreneurial venture. So these EDP programs helps in identifying your strong points and weak points, popularly known as, I'm circling the drain here, but popularly this is known as SWOT analysis, where your strength, weakness, opportunity and threat is identified, and you are matched to entrepreneurial ventures, or you're matched to even job profiles. This is most commonly done even during our interviews. When you attend interviews, this SWOT analysis is done. Self SWOT analysis is one of the popular psychological or stress test that is insisted upon during interviews these days. All right, so SWOT analysis is done, and the strength and weakness of particular person with regards to a particular business or an entrepreneurial venture is identified, through which you are motivated and taken forth in the business venture. All right. Second point is analyzing the environment related to the small industry or small business. This point is specifically related to small industry and small business. Like I told you earlier, this Atyampatti, there is this murukku making place, this Atyampatti or this murukku making place. That environment, that particular village is suitable for this business because that product is very famous in that particular village. If you take Hyderabadi biryani, for example, they even geotagged Hyderabadi biryani to Hyderabad. So you go there expecting to get good biryani, good Hyderabad biryani anywhere and everywhere. So how do you adapt yourself to that particular environment, and how do you develop your small industry or small business accordingly? So that is the second objective. Third objective is selecting the product and or project. All right, so Hyderabad is very famous or well known for biryani. All right, and this Atyampatti is very famous for murukku. I'm not saying that Atyampatti does not have biryani shops and Hyderabad does not have murukku shops, but these places have their own significance. And once you take this this Hyderabadi biryani and try to sell it in Atyampatti, it doesn't really work, right? You need to have the proper location, proper type of customers, proper resources to develop a product or process. So selecting appropriate project or product is very necessary. Next point is formulating projects. Formulating projects is you might have gone through new business development plans or idea generation techniques earlier in the third unit, but formulating projects is not easy as it sounds. That's just not two words. It has a lot of process. Like I told you, business idea generation techniques itself is a lengthy process in itself, because a business might pick up, most businesses, that too with the advent of e-commerce, most businesses pick up so well, but the stagnation point, or when you reach the creamy point where your business is in a smooth flow, that is where your success is. And to achieve that success point, you need to have good ideas or good flow chart, a good process flow. So how do you get that process flow? By formulating project plans or formulating proper blueprints. All right. Next is understanding the process and procedure of setting up small enterprises. So all these process and procedure is where this EDP program comes in. They lend a supporting hand. They tell you, they inform you about the process and procedures needed for the particular business alone. Because even if you are really adapted using internet and the world wide web, and you try to research all of those in the internet, there are there are websites, but once you hit the internet, you get branches and branches of information. There are loads and loads of information, but what's important is you get specific information regarding the business venture that you're interested in. And to get that particular information, EDP cells are much more useful. Right. Next is know and influence the source of help and support needed for launching the enterprise. So once you know how to, example, you have a group of investors that are willing and ready to uh, invest in your product upon hearing your business idea, upon hearing your idea generation techniques and your business idea. But how do you help them? How do you influence them to source much more support or much more help, much more lending hand to your business venture? uh, Number one, you need to ask for help. You need to communicate better, and you need to reach out to them to get the help. But there's also another aspect to it, where you realize what you really need to take your business further. All right, you are knowledgeable and you are aware of your business and your business surrounding, and that is helpful in taking your investors further or your business further. Next point is acquiring the basic management skills. So you are students of business administration. Most of you might be students of management in the future, because you have the resources to acquire the knowledge and skills that is required to start a entrepreneurship venture. But most of them do not have that luxury. So how do you get those basic management skills? HRM, for example, is a uh, very essential, but also tough, one of the toughest management skills that is out there. There are a lot of HR people, there are a lot of people studying HR nowadays, so the word has lost its significance. But managing human resources is in is a skill in itself. That's a person who is really adept, or who is really good at managing HR, can really run an entire company by themselves. Because once they start managing human resource, they can manage whatever part of, they can easily communicate and manage whatever problems that they are facing. So how do you acquire this basic management skills? Through these programs. Of course, people are born with certain qualities, and they are good at certain skills by themselves. But how do you sharpen those skills? Using these EDP programs. Next is acquainting and appreciating the needed social responsibility, because entrepreneurial needs are not just individual needs. There's also a need from the society. For example, there you see a lot of greeneries these days, green spaces these days. Green spaces is not only self-satisfying, but also satisfying for the society. All right. Furthermore, this EDP program, so the objective of this EDP program is to let the entrepreneur set or reset the objectives of his business. So once you start a business, and once you're stagnated, once you don't know where to go further, it helps you in setting or resetting the objectives of your business, or to branch out, or to take it one step further. That for that, EDP is really helpful. And to uh, face risks, and also manage those risks after training. All right. Before EDP training, one might not be able to face those risks confidently. See, risks, you are going to face risks no matter if you take a training or not. But how do you manage that, or how do you face that? To help you manage that or face that, EDP is much more helpful. All right. And taking strategic decisions, what to do when. you have decided to branch out, you have the resources, that is monetary resources, to branch out. You might even have the human resources to branch out. You might have a momo shop, in Annanagar, and you want to open a new momo shop, you want to branch out to Vadaparni. When is the right time? What is the right way? Because you might have a prime spot in Annanagar, but you might not hit the same sweet spot in Vadaparni. How do you take those strategic decisions? There EDP is helpful. So enable him to build an integrated team. So integrated team is a conclusive team of people and also resources. And to communicate fast, like I told you already, to communicate fast, clearly and effectively, which is a very major skill. And to develop a broad vision, to see, to have a bird's eye view, and also to see the big picture of the entire business, because both is important in today's world. And to enable him to relate to the product and industry and to the total environment. So when you open a momo shop, it's not just about the momo, it's also about taking the momos one step but further, because there are even momo burgers nowadays. They've come up with pastry or dessert momos. So how do you take that further? What are your competitions, and how are people reinventing themselves? What are the new ideas that people are coming up with? What can you do as a person, as an individual, to take your product further? And to enable him or her to cope up with all the coordinate and relevant paperworks. Like I told you, there is always a legal aspect to the business. And how do you tackle those legal aspects? How do you tackle those relevant paperworks, and how do you work with those papers, and even government processes, to make him accept industrial democracy, that is accepting workers as partners in an enterprise. So we are moving into a world where working together works much more than self-working, right? So when you work together, because we're not just, that is what Internet of Things is, because e-commerce has taught us that there's not just one seller and one customer. There's a lot of sellers and a lot of customers. You integrate them all together, you bring them all together to bring out a successful product, where all of you are profited, where each and every one of you is profited. Amazon's success is a small time. Let's take a small painting for an example. A small painter is trying to sell a particular painting, and Amazon is trying to deliver that. So the painter should be profited, the customer should be profited, but in the middle, Amazon should be profited, the delivery partner should be profited, the warehouse should be profited. So there is a lot of aspects to it, and in this democracy, all of them should be happy and all of them should be profited. And finally, to strengthen an entrepreneur's integrity, honesty, and compliance with the law. At the end of the day, in a very perfect world, the aim of entrepreneurship is to make everyone happy. Where you have a clean product, where you have a clean garment, and you have a clean service, product, or process. That's not realistic, that's not entirely realistic, but we aim towards that. We aim towards presenting a clean and honest product, process, or service.